My name is Angela Jarman, and this is my colleague Tony Ward, who is the founder of ARC Publications. We're absolutely delighted to welcome you all, wherever in the world you may be, to the launch of one of the most significant of ARC's publications recently, which is Ro Mehrooz chapbook, Poems Written Through Barbed-Wire Fences. Significant because it's the first collection of modern Rohingya poetry to be published in the UK in the original Rohingya language and in English translation. The collection was brought to us by ARC's international editor, James Byrne, who opened the proceedings, who together with the poet himself translated it into English. I have to say that ARC considers itself very fortunate and indeed privileged to be entrusted with the publication of such a milestone work. And our thanks go to Ro and James for giving us the opportunity. James has very kindly agreed to take over and run the proceedings of this launch from here on, along with ARC's social media editor, Rachel Lloyd. So thank you, James. I hand over to you now.
Well, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. We've had morning already from Fred, and I know that we've got a very international audience here, people from Southeast Asia who are able to join us. I notice a few names, people I know, and you're all very welcome to this event. So thanks to Tony and Angela for being with us and for all you do for literature, specifically poetry and translation, thinking about tonight. There is no publisher that does what you do and has done now for a long time. So we're so grateful. And I think I can speak on behalf of Ro in saying the same thing, that you took real care with this pamphlet. And well, you might, of course, because as you say, it is a real milestone. It's the first Rohingya work of translation, so bilingual edition, published in the UK. And I'm going to introduce Ro in a moment and say a few things, but just a few other thank yous as well. Rachel was mentioned there. She always does such amazing work in setting up events and letting you know what's happening in the ARC sphere. So do have a look at the social media that she puts together. And also thanks to Ro, just what an extraordinary person to work with. I've been very lucky over the years. I visited the refugee camps in Cox's Bazar in 2019, and I worked with poets there and others who were interested in poetry, wanted to find out more. And we put together a 2-day series of workshops, creative writing workshops, the first ever workshops in Cox's Bazar refugee camp ever. And I kept in touch with Ro. Now it's been 6 years, and it culminates tonight with this pamphlet, which I know I'm a bit shadowy here, but you can see that front and central, right? This is what we're talking about tonight. Poems Written Through Barbed-Wire Fences. It's a beautiful edition. Let me just say something about the form of the pamphlet. So it has at the beginning an introduction. I'll read you a couple of excerpts of that. But what's really fascinating about this work is that at the back of it, you have a poetics written by Ro, a really fascinating piece in itself, and of course the poems printed bilingually inside. Tonight we're going to read about 5 poems from the book. They're all fairly short, and Ro will read them in Rohingya language, which is such a powerful thing to say for the community. The community will know, the Rohingya community, how important this is. So thank you for joining us. And then afterwards we're going to have hopefully a bit of time to discuss. If there's a question you'd like to ask, please do. And we will have maybe just a short discussion afterwards. So without further ado, let me say a few things about Ro. Well, I've known him for 6 years, and in that time, the most important thing, not just feeling so much nourishment from his poetry, he's really an exceptional young poet, but the main thing has been to protect his safety. He lives in hiding, and it's important to retain his anonymity. So the first thing I would say to all of you as an audience, of course, thanks for joining us, but also let's respect that Ro is protecting his anonymity. He's far better looking than me, but you won't get to see his face as such, but you will see his physical appearance. And yeah, I'm going to read a couple of short excerpts from this introduction. I presume some of you will know about the Rohingya and how difficult it's been for them. But let me just begin by saying this. In 2017, the Tatmadaw, the brutal military majority of the Burmese government, burned down large swathes of land in the Rohingya homeland of Arakan and deliberately killed men and also women and children, displacing almost 1 million more people. Cox's Bazar refugee camp, which is where I met Ro, as I say, is on the border of Bangladesh and Myanmar, and it was for many the only place to flee to. Close to 1 million Rohingya live there in desperate conditions, as I've witnessed, stateless and in limbo, and yet they are still strong in their community. And you'll have a sense of the strength that is within the community this evening, merely by hearing Ro, but also for our discussion later. We're going to talk about the importance of preserving a culture and a language and a people. So the Burmese military, well, they basically in 2017, the Rohingya had to flee, and many left for Cox's Bazar, and Ro was one of these. He left just before his 16th birthday. So if you can imagine that, 15 years old, crossing a border, and the precarity of doing so. Now, I want to tell you Ro's real name, but I can't for reasons I've said about protecting his anonymity. But Ro, his pseudonym, Ro stands for Rohingya, which is a fairly common pseudonym for poets I met in Cox's Bazar refugee camp 5 years ago. And it's a defiant communal gesture against the genocidal operations of the Burmese military. Since I met Ro in the camps, we keep in touch regularly, and I noticed that he was one of many really impressive Rohingya poets. And just after myself and Shezar Doja, I think Shezar's with us tonight. Welcome, Shezar. Good to hear that you're here. But Shezar and I, we put together at some speed, just after being in the camps, an anthology called I Am a Rohingya, and that was published by ARC. And that's a really important place to start if anyone is really curious about the Rohingya poets, plural, that are writing today. Many of them, like Ro, are quite young poets. So the workshop was predominantly for poets in their 20s. And Ro himself is still in his 20s. He's multilingual. He's also written poems in English. He's chosen to publish his poems written in Rohingya for this pamphlet. And just a few last things, if I could say, and I hinted at this earlier. You know, I've been very fortunate. I've worked with some extraordinary poets from all around the world, some of them who are here tonight. Ro is an exceptional being. What he's doing, not just within his poetry, which is exquisite and very powerful, it's also that he is creating community and trying to preserve his culture. And that was one of the reasons he decided to write in the Rohingya language, is to try and preserve his culture. And we'll talk more about that later. So just lastly from me, and I'm going to give you what I can tell you from the biography we put together, just a couple of things. Ro Mehrooz is a young Rohingya poet, translator, and also an award-winning photographer. He was born in 1999. He is originally from Arakan, Myanmar, which is the ancestral home of the Rohingya. Growing up under the oppression of the Burmese regime, he fled his country, avoiding arbitrary arrests. Now, his poems have been published in 2019 in I Am a Rohingya, as I say. and various other anthologies and magazines. And one of his photographs was published recently as part of an exhibition called Burma to Myanmar in the British Museum in London. So, without further ado, a really remarkable young man, and I'm very pleased to say this, a friend, Ro Mehrooz. Please welcome him. And Ro, would you like to say hello to everyone?
Hello, everyone.
Nice.
Please confirm if you could hear me. I'm still figuring out.
We can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you. Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm very good. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to everyone, because we have such an audience here from around the world. I really appreciate your presence here. I appreciate poets, audiences joining us from my community, and from England, from Canada, and various parts of the world. I'm very pleased and glad to see you all here. This is my first ever of such event, so I would not say much except let my poems talk here. So thank to all of you for being here.
That's it.
Great. Thank you, Ro.
That's it.
We're now going to begin the poems, and we're going to begin. Just one thing before we read the poems. It's fairly obvious to say this, but if you could keep yourself on mute, that would be wonderful. And turn those phones off or put them on vibrate, whatever you need to do. But welcome, Ro. We're going to begin with your poem that has become, I think, a bit of a modern classic in 21st century Rohingya poetry. It's a poem that is actually a retelling of a lullaby, popular lullaby in Rohingya culture, often the one that Rohingya mothers sing to calm their babies. So you'll hear a kind of lullaby song-like effect in this poem. So first in the Rohingya, and then I'll read the translation that we made.
Raat ki Rani. O Sadamamu hatafuno sai. Fu dalarong fidi monto ayesai. Tuanla soitat ke raat ki Ranir holi. Boya raibo iri rarir holi jaibo izori. Udan bedan aga gura dibo khushbu gari. O Sadamamu hatafuno sai. Fu dalarong fidi monto ayesai. Bubu hoye matat dibo raat ki Ranir holi. Mutat made ganti ganti fulo sara badi. Aro dibo hatot modi fuache zarfuan mili. 2 দিন বাদে বুবুর বিয়া তাইবানি ও সাদামামু হতাফুনো সাই ফু দালারং ফিদি বিয়া তাইও সাই
Night blooming jasmine. Oh, moon uncle, please hear me. Come to the wedding wearing white. For you, the buds of the night blooming jasmine wait. The wind will blow gently, the buds will fall. The whole yard will smell of its scent. Oh, moon uncle, please hear me. Come to me wearing white. Boo Boo said she will place buds of the night blooming jasmine on her head, knitting the threads into a wreath. She will dye henna on her hands among friends. Her wedding is in 2 days. Will you come? Oh, moon uncle, please hear me. Come to the wedding wearing white. The next poem, the English translation is, No, I don't have a home or the strength to speak.
No asegor, no asemon. No asegor, no asemon. Ase hoibar kiki. Punuyayo hore ase, hoyum hare kiki. Sansar berai shukaburi nokot dilam bari. Fasolo tani gibot gulam, aro gulam kiki. Dana besi man ara di dojadale. Mumika ayer nosol thara roibo kiki. Baye baye hanahani, forore loe tanajani, ki zindagi gelgo yarar, Aro zaibo kiki. Sukta yada hoi ara galtai bukoi. Belo miloi mogos duye aro dubo kiki. Kujahari mujafili roitot fuati. Otozala shoi felailam. Aro shoyum kiki. No ase san, no ase tara. Ase ar kiki. Zindagit for ase hode dekhiyo mai kiki. No ase tor, no ase man. Ase hoibar kiki. Funaya yo hode ase hoyum hare kiki. Now here, an interesting fact is ki in Rohingya means what. But when ki is repeated, it can change its meaning, such as what else, or depending on the context, whatever. And it can take so many other forms depending on the context.
I remember that from the translation process. The key, did you all hear that? The at the end of the line. Okay, so no, I don't have a home or the strength to speak. No, I don't have a home or the strength to speak. What do I have to say? What? When no one listens, who do I speak to? What would I say? What? I rolled the family census paper, heaped with tobacco, tapped the filter with a thumbnail, took a drag from the facilai, gossiped, and did whatever. Selling drugs, we squandered our faith in the river. What will happen to the next generation? What? Friendly among strangers, bickering among brothers. What a life passed us by. What else will pass? What? Even with eyes we were blind. Even with a mouth we were silent. They washed our brains with illiteracy. What else is to be washed? What? Root cut, severed, forced to dry out in the sun. So much we have suffered. What else is there to suffer? What? No moon, no stars. What else is there? What? Is there any light in my life? What can I see? What? No space underfoot, no strength to speak. What do I have to say? What? When no one listens, who do I speak to? What would I say? What? The next poem we're going to read, right, Ro, is about a British pastime. The British love drinking their tea, don't they?
I imagine they do. And here is the poem.
That's a great answer. And in the Rohingya, we'll hear it. The poem is called I Wanted a Cup of Tea in the English. Over to you, Ro.
Thank you. Ek fialasa. Tuar fonti bo ek fialasa. Haito salam. Rong hora sine beshi meda haito salam. Beharasta fidot guri logio yare tuli. Dure zaigyo yuzo rasta tuai no fari. Tuar fonti bo ek fialasa. Haito salam. Rong hora sine beshi meda haito salam. Safata sini ar gurdutaya nilam. Zaite timer tongis gorom hai no failam. Keteletun goli furi nifigyo tushon sula. Tok diror najjal fonsa se shude mala. Tuar fonti bo ek fialasa haito salam. Rong hora sine beshi meda haito salam. Udot made fiala lagai bazara haito salam. Kismotar hawa mufira ye ki gorio mai. Shitgal kuwa guzurigioi sa hai no failam. Ekahashi gopishopi mari no failam.
I wanted a cup of tea. I wanted to sit with you and drink a cup of tea, a strong, sugared, sweet tea. The curved road carried me off on its back, but being so far away, I couldn't find the straight path. I wanted to sit with you and drink a cup of tea, a strong, sugared, hot tea. I bought tea leaves, sugar, and cow's milk, but en route, short of time, I couldn't drink it hot. Because the kettle leaked, the husk stove turned off, decayed coconut of my fate. Only its shell is left. I wanted to sit with you and drink a cup of tea, a strong, sugared, sweet tea. I wanted to keep the cup touching my lip. But fate's wind turned its face. What can I do? Winters and mists passed. To drink my tea, I couldn't. A giggle, a little chit-chat, I couldn't.
Before reading the next poem, today is World Refugee Day. According to the UNHCR, about 123 million people are forced to flee their homes. Like James mentioned previously, among them, more than 1 million are Rohingyas. Many of them were displaced just 8 years ago. But some are 35 years ago, and others are still fleeing. But none of them see the way out of the open-air prison, which is also called refugee camp. None of them see a clear path to a safe repatriation. Let's read a poem to commemorate this World Refugee Day. Refugee Camp. Geldahadat beshi koram fujil. Duana tu go manishi kolot hode. Ara jahannamor dagu tu takide. E hatat beshi zodir. Manishor goror salor woror fanitun no bai ketsu manshore zagalaride.
Sorry, 1 second. Sorry, carry on, Ro.
شو بحدها قد
Please mute everything.
Okay.
Thank you.
Manshor goror salor woror fanitun no bai ketsu manshore zagalaridir. Facebook dekilam de তোমারে মান আসলদের তেলদের ডাইলদের তোমারা তুকিও চিন্তা মাইক লৈ ডাক দি হইল দে ঠেম নাইনত হাইন্দা ভাঙি বাফ লৈ ফোয়া লৈ মরিগিও বলে হেডে যাই চাইলাম দে বেড়ি কুয়া হাঁদে দে মাঝে যাইলে মাঝে মারে খুলে মারে মারে সুসুনি মানুষ হদে এড়ে তিন্না মৌসুম আছে ডর আর মৌসুম হরাইনা ওইনার ডর বারিশা ফানি আর হাইন্দা ভাঙার ডর শীতকাল্লা শীতে হইলা মসুরার ডর মাঝে হালে দিন থাইলে গুলির ডর
Thank you, Ro. Just to remind everyone, we're going to have time to discuss later. So I think someone's got their hand up, but we'll come to questions in the discussion. But thanks for being patient. And this poem is called Refugee Camp. It was very powerful to read this, as Ro said, on World Refugee Day. Last week, searing heat. In the shop, a man on a call. We live near the hellfire. This week, heavy rains. People are being moved by boat from water raised above roofs. I saw on Facebook, you're given free rice, oil, lentils. What worries do you have left? A loud announcement from the mic. Landslide killed father and son in Camp 9. Arriving there, a woman wails. The center beats me if I go to the center. The shore beats me if I go to the shore. Oh, mother, oh, mermaid. Here, people say there are 3 seasons. Seasons of fear. Fear of fire in the summer, fear of floods and landslides in the monsoon, the heart-wrenching fear of winter. And if there are any days left, the fear of bullets in between. We're going to read one more poem before we go into our discussion. And Ro, I think you'd like to say a few words about this poem.
Thank you, James. This poem is written after the coup d'etat in my home country, Myanmar, in 2021, when I was in the confinement of my room in another country during the coronavirus lockdown. The poem is a consolation to me in a state of solitude. During the time seeing the countless protesters being violently attacked and killed, I was trying to contemplate what it would mean for the country and my community's fate as the brutal Tatmadaw regime who committed genocidal atrocities against my community grabs power again. The poem is Hokkollarai Kamya Foibo. O mor afsus hayat, o mor teta hayya afsus waladil. Zulum loi beribanda ega azad oibo. Tor shapon kol furaguribo. Ar hoekdin baddashor duk fiha. Ar hoekdin. Balur gondit zulumor balu nise forizargoi. Balur gondit zulumor balu nise forizargoi. Ar ekka gure basi asudi. Furafuri goli zailo gondiar noul dibo. Ara noul dai. E zulum hamisha landar gulat tufi jabe. O mor teta hayya afsus wala dil. Mui hoi faron tordu komur wore nozar shidile. জোৱান লাল হইলাসকল গলত জাগাত জ্বলি ৪,০০০ গুদ্দিত দেখিলে ফুলৰ হলিসকল ৰং দুই ২০০,০০০ গুদ্দিত দেখিলে লেকিন মেহনতৰ মিউলা আসমানৰ জলত ৪,০০০ জলদি কামিয়াবৰ জ্বৰৰ ফুৰাসকল ফুৰি ফুলৰ হৰিত ৰঙানিব অ মোৰ থেতা হাইয়া আফচোচৱালা দিল মুই হৈ ফাৰম তৰ দুখ ইনচানৰ হাড্ডি কুঁৰে চাবাদে দেখিলে মিলিটারির গুলিত লাশর ফার দেখিলে নালার ব্যাং লওয়ত হাসুরদ্দে দেখিলে লেকিন কামিয়াবির ডল বায়াইর আরা তিনলর সালামিলই জাত ধর্ম সামর রং মায়া মরদর দায়ের বুঝাই জালেমর খেলাফ লড়াই গরিদ্দে হেতাল্লা হকল লড়াই কামিয়াব হইব হকল লড়াই কামিয়াব হইব
Thanks, Ro. The translation of this poem is called, and there's hope within the title, "The fight for truth will be victorious." Oh, my bruised, sad heart, your body, oppressively shackled, will be free. Your dreams will be fulfilled. A few more days. Drink gulps of patience. A few more days. In the hourglass, the sand of tyranny falls down. Just a few more days left. If sifted, the hourglass will not overturn if we don't overturn it. This tyranny will sink into a black hole forever. Oh, my bruised, sad heart, I know your pain spreading its gaze upon the people. When you see young red coals burned to ashes for the wrong cause, when you see flower buds turn pale, still toil clouds spread the sky's nest, soon victory's raindrops will fall on the buds and revive color. Oh, my bruised, sad heart, I know your pain when you see dogs chew human bones, when through a soldier's gun you see mountains of corpses, when you see gutter frogs swimming in blood. Still, the flood tide of victory rolls forward, raising a three-fingered salute, removing lines of ethnicity, religion, skin color, woman, man, because we fight against tyrants. The fight for truth will be victorious. Everybody, Ro Mehrooz. So this is a chance to come back together as a group, and I can see some familiar faces in here and names. So if anybody would like to ask a question, I think there was a hand up earlier on. I might be wrong about that. If anybody has something, then please let us know. Just unmute yourself if you want to ask something.
James, this is Mohammed Zaman. Can I go?
Please, Mohammed.
Well, thank you very
welcome.
much. And it's a privilege. Thanks to the publishers and to James and Ro. And I'm very glad to meet you personally. For information to others who are joining, I'm editing a book, in fact, along with colleague Robert Anderson and Kausar Ahmed. The title of the book is Rohingya Stories, History and Geopolitics in a Multipolar World. The book is in the print now and should be available
That's great.
around September.
Fantastic. I'm just going to say that Ro has something in that book as well, and also,
yeah, I'm coming to that. I'm coming to
Great.
that, and I'm
sorry
so
to interrupt,
happy.
but we only have 4 minutes left of the reading. So
Okay, I'll be done. So I want to say that, you know, Ro and James has a joint chapter in the book. The book starts. I'm glad to say this, and it's such a powerful piece. The book starts with Ro's poem, "I Don't Have a Home." And that's how the journey starts in the book.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much, and thanks for bringing us together through this.
Thank you, Mohammed. Thanks for being with us. Fred, you've got a question, I think. Do you want to ask it?
Yes. Thank you, by the way. I'm so moved by what's just taken place. I'm moved by hearing the voice of Ru on behalf of a silenced, oppressed, genocided group. On a poetry front, you know, Auden said poetry makes nothing happen. Auden was wrong. This is an event. This is a happening. Clearly something is going on. So thank you. And thank you, James, for your politics and, of course, ARC. I mean, Tony and Angela, you deserve a crown for what you've done for so long. So thank you for keeping poetics alive that's urgent and tied to oppression and the transformation of our hurts. I'm really grateful for that. My question really has to do with the translation process. I know people have said, you know, what's lost in translation is the poetry, but I'm actually intrigued in how you go from Rohingya to English and keep alive an urgency about utterance. So could you say a bit about the translation process, James, with Ro?
Yeah, great question, Fred. I'm just going to defer to Rachel just for a second. We've got about 2 minutes left, but are people able to log back on to the same link, or is that a wrap after 2 minutes?
I think it's possible. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we might be able to log back on to the same. Otherwise, we've only got a couple of minutes. So I'm going to let Ro speak, if you're willing, Ro, about the translation process and trying to keep the urgency and vitality of the Rohingya language alive. Such a good question.
Thank you, James, and thank you, Fred, for the questions. Yes, keeping the time in mind, I would try to answer this briefly. It has been quite an amazing journey to translate these works in English. The Rohingya in English are kind of in an opposite direction. If we can see that directions. And oftentimes there were moments of difficulties, but we have tried to preserve the nuances of Rohingya language. And every language and every culture has its context, and the word comes with so many concepts, and at times it is difficult to preserve those contexts. But I think we have tried so much and to keep this, and I think we have achieved our objective to the best. And I am so to keep this alive, to keep this journey going, I also set up a website which is coming in the few weeks. I'm not sure if you could see this. The website is called Pod, which means word, basically. The tagline says,
There
Not
you
sure
are.
if
Wonderful.
okay.
Okay, so please go back a little bit and just say what you were saying before it unfortunately cut out. Welcome back, everyone.
Welcome back, everyone, again. Yes, thank you. So the tagline says, "Let us weave words and live the life." So that's the tagline. And so this is a website where we are hoping to archive the poems and the classical or the folk songs and poems, and if we could write them and preserve here, and set up a system that where nothing can be erased again, because we have been going through banishment for a long time, for decades. The Burmese government has been trying to erase our culture, our identity, and so many of us even don't feel comfortable to speak our language nowadays. And this is a systematic. This happens through a systematic oppression. But I imagine you would know about this more than me. But this is a website, and here we can see the translations in a click, or see the how the translation come across. Like Fred asked, you can click on individual words and see how the
Lambar
um
Durakan.
how the process works. And not only translating Rohingya poems to English, but we are hoping to translate and display them in this website, literature from other languages. For example, this is a poem translated. Uh, this is a poem of a very famous, a Nobel Prize winning poet, a Bengali poet called Rabindranath Tagore, and uh, we're hoping to translate from other languages:
Amazing.
English, Greek, German, Arabic, and so many languages, hopefully. And hopefully someday this will be a huge repository for Rohingya language and literature. And that day, it would be very difficult for someone to erase the Rohingya language and Rohingya as a community.
Thanks so much for
Thanks.
sharing the site. It's not launched yet, but Ro is going to share when it does launch with ARC and their social media accounts, which is you can find on ARC's website. So I recommend checking in with this website for so many reasons. I mean, when I first saw it a couple of weeks ago, because I know you've been working on this for a long time, made me think how important it's going to be for your community members to engage with their own culture, which you say needs preserving. Makes me think of Marcus Garvey when he said, a person without knowledge of their past origins or culture is like a tree without roots. So you're actually giving people back their roots, or helping them understand what they already might understand of their roots, of course. So that's amazing. Thanks for the question, Fred. And we're going to should we stay on for about another 10 minutes or so? And we'll take another couple of questions. Is there anybody else who would like to ask something? Or in the chat? I just actually, is there anything in the chat? I just wonder, or shall I just ask Ro something? Yeah, we could definitely do that, Fred. We can end with a poem for sure. Yeah, so one of the things I talk about with a lot of my poet activist friends, some of whom are here tonight, and just a wonderful community, but we're trying to work out, poets and non-poets, the whole world at large at the moment are trying to understand the future and how we are in the future, who we are in this future, and how we survive. And I just wonder, you know, through your own experiences, Ro, how you've considered the future, which must be sometimes a difficult thing to consider, having survived genocide, and how we survive into the future, and also how it works maybe on a global level for you as well. I know you've read poems from all around the world, Tagore there, um, also poems from Dunia Mikhail, the Iraqi poet. So I just wonder on a like a local or community level, Ro, how do you think about who we are and how we survive, and how does that work on a global level?
Thank you, James. At times, as writers, we think that we can write or we can even think, but at times, I I cannot come thoughts with the things going on around the world in the past few years. When I turn to the left, there is my community, uh, even my own family members recently, and so many are still going through atrocities on daily basis. And when I see to the right, then there is so many things happening from Ukraine to Palestine, now today Iran, Israel, and in Africa, Congo, Sudan, and at times it gets very difficult to take all of this, and I think I I cannot um, I cannot say like I am like this is kind of what's happening to what has been happening to me in the past few years. When I see a lot of things as human, sometimes it gets very difficult, and I just wonder how those operas can enjoy this. Um, but I I would just read a poem uh, to describe what I think of such moments.
Hmm.
The
Yeah, that'd be
poem,
great.
the poem's title is Doldali. Dunya yan doldali. Zede ai tiailam golti gori. Nasilam kushi gori. আস্তে আস্তে গলিলাম বই হুঁশ হারাই জেড়ে আই উড়ি নফারি কণিকে মরের তুলো ঠানি.
Yeah, it's the shortest poem in the book, but it's so powerful. Ro, do you want to read the translation or shall I?
Yes, I could read the translation as well. Thank you. Quicksand. The world is a quicksand. By mistake, it's where I stood, where ecstatically I danced, slowly, slowly, unconsciously. I sank so much where I can no longer get out. Somebody get me out.
Thanks for reading Quicksand. There is maybe one last poem we'll read, if that's okay, unless there are any other questions. And by the way, just as a final, try and entice you to ask anything if you want. But if there's anybody who wants to ask a question in a language we can translate, then we can possibly do that. So that's open to you. Otherwise, we'll read one last poem. Yeah, I can't see the chat, but right. Ro, would you mind reading us? Sorry, this is a difficult request. This is somebody that you were in touch with, and I guess this does relate to what we're saying about the global sphere. You know, people might come from the West and engage with what's happening with the Rohingya, publish a few photographs in a magazine, and that's it. So, yeah, I wonder if you could read the poem "They Forget Me." and maybe just explain something about how you put the poem together, because you were in touch with the person that you wrote this poem about, right?
Yes, James. Thank you. This poem is about Mumtaz Begum, who is a woman who has seen the worst of all that can be a genocide, apart from that, death. I think that is far easier than living with suffering. After escaping rape and being burned alive during Tulatuli massacre in August 27, Mumtaz Begum was interviewed by an international media where she said, "I want justice, and I want to tell the world that all these things the military did, they raped us and killed us. We want justice." After years of waiting for justice, Mumtaz appears to be hopeless and fed up with seemingly inconsequential interviews by the press. In an interview with my friend, she says, "Once they collect information, they never contact me." So this is the last line. This is what made me write this poem. And I called her and she described what happened to her. Her family members were killed, but without giving much details on that about the call, I would just let my poem speak about it. Hitara are forai fele. Lamba lamba guli doila camera liaye. Ze guli loi military ar ma baf gushire mari felai. Are futu mare. Kenda tharor batu ay mare. Ai hono sirahanar janwar nan. Ai hono bak no hoitam. Azaraf no beraitam. Hono zalade bandon no. Ai gwen sanoni. Kenda taror butore ai mare. Tara khobor leke. Hamole fiddi jagoi. Har mono thone raki. Hitara are forai fele. Itara are forai fele.
Shall I read the translation? The poem is called They Forget Me. Long, long, gun-like, they come with cameras, guns with which the military killed my family. They photograph me across the barbed wire fence, as if I'm a zoo animal. I am not a tiger that bites, not a python that strangles, not some irritable monkey. Am I not a human? They come inside the barbed wire fence, photograph me, write their reports. When their work is finished, they turn back and go. Who remembers who? They forget me. So thank you, everybody, for coming to this event and for logging back on for part two. We have a nice select crowd now. And if I can just close by thanking again ARC Publications for everything they do, really extraordinary work. Please have a look at what they're publishing and who they're supporting as writers and translators from around the world. What they do is remarkable, as Fred said earlier. And thank everyone also for being here, and to Rachel for setting up this launch. And most of all, to Ro, and I'm going to give you the last words. Before I do that, I'm just going to say, why not buy this beautiful pamphlet of extraordinary poems? So Ro, over to you. Thanks so much. Your book is officially launched.
Thank you, James. I am very glad to see all of you here. This has not been something that I have imagined or I could imagine coming from a background of coming from a place where I was. Writing is not something that I thought to do initially, but it was the situation that made me the lost hope of returning home and seeing this situation of suffering of my community. But I'm very thankful to you, James, and our friendship over 6 years. It has been an amazing journey, and this is the result. I am not sure if my camera is on, but James has shown the book. We have worked so hard on translating this and putting this together. And last but not the least, thank you very much to the ARC publication, Mr. Tony and Angela, for publishing this. This is a great honor for me and my community. This is the first of its kind, and hopefully, this is the start of a journey that will never end, ever.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I add another last word from ARC? Thank you so much, Ro. Thank you so much, James. Thank you so much, Rachel, for making this wonderful launch possible. It's been very moving, very illuminating, and it's beautiful poetry. So thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone, and take care. And we stand in solidarity with you, the Rohingya community. Be well.
Thank you, everyone, for being here.
You can stick around a minute if you want, Ro. We'll have a quick chat.
Oh my God.